The Susan Brender Show is a radio show online broadcasted on YouTube across the United States and globally. The show features guests who speak about health, spirituality, entertainment, and a host of subjects to enlighten people across the nation. Listen to the show that empowers women and men alike and highlights those who have made a difference.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. You know, we always have lots of friends on our show, and the one that we have today is our friend Michael Solomon. Michael Solomon is an author. He's a pundit. He really has been a speaker, a motivational speaker for so many different seminars. Michael Solomon has a new book. It's called Mental Acuity and the Entrepreneur's Guide to Shaping Your Mind for Greater Success, which is an entrepreneur's dream. This is a dream book. I feel very strongly about that. Now, let's talk a little bit about Peter Osnos. Now, between 1966 and 1984, Peter Osnos was a reporter and a foreign correspondent for the Washington Post, and he served as the newspaper's foreign and national editor. You know, Peter, you've done so much that if I read your bio, it's going to take most of the half hour. So I want to just say, welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's just a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks very much. It is a long story, I guess. Yes, you're right.
Okay. Yeah. So Michael, let me ask you something. Today, we're dealing with so much, and the woke society is just a horrible thing from my point of view. Maybe you can speak to it, and I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Anyway, as you were saying, Susan, that you know, when you look at wokeness, the actual definition of wokeness is a state of being aware, especially of social problems such as racism, inequality, and basically wokeness encompasses the need to search for more knowledge, which to me is a joke because there is enough knowledge out there. Again, another word for wokeness is awakened, and suddenly people are waking up to find out that they've been discriminated against all these years and didn't even know it, which to me is ridiculous, because some politician or commentator told them that they have been. I mean, that's a joke, except that the problem was that everybody's been living in a double standard, which is becoming known as a political double standard, because it's all the politicians that are living in double standards. If you look at what's going on, especially with masking right now, I mean, you've got Newsom at ball games and Garcetti at football games not wearing a mask in big crowds, and he goes to a restaurant when he tells other people you can't. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, people see this and they're getting angry, and that's the problem. You know, political correctness, honestly, is always having to say you're sorry, and it started way back in the 1930s with the Frankfurt School. That was the Frankfurt School of Social Theory, and it progressed into the 60s when critical theory or critical work theory became the Institute for Social Research.
Yeah, let's start with you, Peter. Following up on what Michael has said, what do you think about what's happening now in our society? Because there's so much, and Michael has addressed a few of the things, but I would like you to continue the conversation.
Well, I got his point of view clearly. I think the solution to a number of problems, bigotry, bias, climate change, let's just do away with the human race, because then we wouldn't have any of these problems. Truth is, as long as you have people, and the people come from so many different places with so many different perspectives, you're going to have conflicts and confrontation and controversy, all of which is the consequence of people breathing and living and being who they are. So yes, I think we're living through a period of this rather sort of arch business of who's right, who's wrong. A lot of it is for me, I'm not going to go as far as ridiculous, but does go too far. But on the other hand, we are repairing things that for centuries really have been a problem. I mean, I ask you to just look at some of the things that were true at various points in history. I'm especially keen, because it's in my lifetime, the Holocaust, which was something that I hope people will never forget, or the slavery, which is something that American history has acknowledged was an original sin in our society. So I think that what we're seeing is a reflection of the changing mores that happen, evolve all the time, and it never stops. Yeah. Whether it goes too far and sometimes regresses. I think there's a good chance that at the end of this process that Michael's so concerned about, or at least so angry about, we'll have a better society, but we'll never have a society in which everyone agrees.
That reminds me of the fact that anti-Semitism is really a big thing. I mean, I remember going to Italy and I was on a train and I passed an area with SWAT stickers all over. Now, this is something that people, even though they say that they like Jews, that Jews are, very smart, but the fact of the matter is that I'll tell you something. One of the things that is really interesting is that Peter Osnos, you must know that anti-Semitism is across the board. Now, I remember going on a train, and as I passed the walls that were next to the train, I saw SWAT stickers all over. And I thought to myself, oh my God, in this time and in this age, there's still anti-Semitism. Michael, talk about anti-Semitism for a minute, because I know that you think about this a lot and you talk about it a lot. So I'd like to hear your opinion on it.
Well, going back to the early teens and the 20s and 30s in America, when Jewish people couldn't even get jobs and couldn't go to work. I remember an aunt of mine went to work to support her family, and she actually wore a crucifix trying to get to work. And they fired her when she took off for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because they realized at that point that she wasn't sane. She was out sick. She was Jewish. And that was the end of that. But what happened was, knowing what happened to Jews at that time, and they've always been really the educated people, decided, you know what? We're not gonna riot. We're not gonna fight. We're not gonna take up guns and protest in the streets. We're going to go back to school and get educated. And we're going to become the employers. We're going to become the bosses and the professionals. And that's what happened. They pulled themselves up by the bootstraps, and they've done it. There's a lot of Black Americans who have done that. There's a lot of Hispanic Americans that have done that. Look at some of these Black and Hispanic businessmen in America who are millionaires, multimillionaires, some even billionaires. And that's the key to success in this country. It's not saying that, oh my God, woe is me, I'm being discriminated against. Give me a break. Give me a break. This Black Lives Movement is an absolute joke. It's a way to raise money. They've got $6 million in the bank. They're being investigated. You know what? Where are all of these people when things are going down? I go into a restaurant. I'm going to give you an example to get back with wokeness. I go into a restaurant. The waitress comes up to me and says, "Hi, I'm going to be your server today." And I said, I'm ready to say, "Well, fetch me some iced tea," because they don't realize that the word server comes from servitude, which denotes slavery. So what is she telling me? Oh, I'm going to be your slave today? Come on, give me a break. Actors and actresses in Hollywood, the actresses got crazy. Oh, we don't want to be known as, we don't want to be gender biased. We want to be the same. So what do? Now they have an award that everybody is called an actor. Well, fine. If everybody is an actor and you're all on the same playing field, then why don't we do away with the Best Actress Award and only have one award for actor? But no, that's not it. They want to live by a double standard. And that's the joke. I mean, it's, what's good for it, this is what I want to project on you, but it's not okay for me. I'll do what I want. So, let's get on a level playing field here. And, I think the government wants us all to walk around like Stepford wives, just smile and walk straight ahead, and we all look the same and talk the same and no change. You can't do that. This is an open society. We're a free society.
Well, let me ask you, Peter, you heard what Michael had to say, and needless to say, you could hear the anger in his voice and you could hear the frustration. Do you feel the same way?
No, but I can tell just by listening to Michael, who I'm sure has his opinions views based on enormous experience and knowledge and He's obviously done it very well over many, many years. I come from a different space altogether. My background is journalism. My background is publishing and books of all kinds. And as it happens, I am the son of people who left Europe in 1939 and 40 under the most egregious circumstances. They made it through from Poland to Romania to Turkey to Iraq and India, and they stayed in India until I was born in 1943 and made it to the United States and started over. I don't need to be told anything more about what it means to be a Jew. My life was shaped by, or certainly my family's life was shaped by.
Yeah.
I think that there's what I think of as a paradox of what it means to be Jewish in America today. There's never been a period really ever, probably in history, with maybe the exception of a short period of time in Germany, when it has been better to be Jewish, in the sense that all the opportunity that's available to you and the progress and the success, the influence in so many different fields is enormous. On the other hand, over 60% of Jews are marrying outside the faith, which is an astonishing percentage. And Israel, which was at its founding a source of immense pride among Jews and a great many other people, is now a source of division because of the ways in which the Palestinian issue has been addressed. So what you have here is, again, a paradox. It's a very, very good time. And Jews are always going to be mindful that anti-Semitism is out there. It will be. But then all kinds of bigotry are deeply embedded. And in the society that all societies, put three people in a room and one of them is going to decide that they're better than the others. So I would say that anti-Semitism is always something we should be mindful of. I am acutely mindful of it, but I'm also not deterred, because I believe that those of us who are most committed to society in which we can do our best will always be able to. That just seems to be the case.
Yeah. Michael, you talked a little bit about Whoopi Goldberg. I'll be honest with you, I didn't hear her speak, but there must be something that is really irritating to you, because you mentioned that she said something that is maybe horrible. I don't know. You tell me. What is the problem with Whoopi Goldberg?
She's got more than one problem. Her original problem is Whoopi Goldberg is not her name. Her name is Karen Johnson, spelled with a C, and she always wanted to sound Jewish because she thought that was the way to get ahead in the world, is to be Jewish. So she picked a name like Goldberg. That's a fact, and that's in her memoirs. The problem is she made a statement that I'm paraphrasing this, but she made a statement that the Holocaust was not a racial happening. There was nothing racist about it, because
that's not what you said.
Because the people were white, the Jews were white, and so were the Germans.
Hold on a minute, Michael.
No, it's okay.
That's not what she said. What she said was, this had to do with the fact that a book called Mouse, which is a graphic representation of the Holocaust, was pulled from the curriculum in a school district in Tennessee. And she said, well, turns out Jews, this is again a paraphrase, is that Jews can be subjected to the kind of racism that blacks are. And the idea that she was equating, once again, this notion that somehow the Holocaust really could be minimized according to its issues of religion and race, was offensive. And, her name is Whoopi Goldberg. She chose that name for some reason. I didn't read her memoirs, I don't. But she wasn't really saying anything as, truly toxic as other people have said over and over. And she got suspended for 2 weeks from her program, which will only increase the ratings when she comes back.
Yeah. Michael, you heard what he said, but the problem is that most of the people today really don't think about anti-Semitism. What they think about is politics. Politics is one of the most important things that you hear all over the place and you read it. Now, I want to go to you, Peter. You're a writer and you've written for so many different publications and you've even run some. Now, do you think that the media, and I'll call your papers the media, do they give really honest information? Because sometimes you just don't know. So I'm curious to know how you feel about the media and its place in our world.
Well, you're absolutely right. I have devoted myself for years to the media as a reporter, editor, publisher, writer. I know a lot about it, and I will say that the media is always to blame to some extent for public attitudes because it both reflects them and shapes them. And what we have now, which is unique in the history of the prevalence of media, is that it is in every respect broader, wider, more available than it ever has. The truth is, each one of us, is the editor-in-chief of our media. We choose what we want. We choose what we want to read, we choose what we want to listen to, we choose what we want to watch. And because of the way information and entertainment and news are now distributed, everybody's the editor-in-chief. And what's happening is, to a very large extent, people seem to choose stuff that they're going to find that they fundamentally agree with, which is why you have this deep division now in the sort of media culture. So everybody will tell you that the role of Fox News has been immensely important and influential in American life. There's no question about it. That there are ways in which people now can access material from across the sort of spectrum of politics that satisfies them or angers them. And whereas the media is called the media, in fact, the media is made up of vast different types of information systems. And every one of us, is the editor-in-chief. We choose what we want, where we get it, and when. That is a phenomenon of our time.
Yeah. Michael, what about you? How do you feel about the media and the news that they're giving you? Because a lot of people read the New York Times, they read the Wall Street Journal, and, each one of these different newspapers have different opinions. And in fact, not only are they different, it's almost interesting that you read something in one paper and then you read it in another, and there's such a difference. Now, how do you feel about the media? Because as I said before, the media has such influence on people, and Peter Osnos agrees with that. So what's your thoughts about it?
Well, the problem is that Walter Cronkite is long gone. He used to get on the air every night and read the news, and we'd make up our own minds. Today, we don't have any commentators anymore. We got opinionators. They're telling us what our opinion. They're giving us their opinions and trying to give it to us like it's a fact. We're actually being gaslighted. When I hear some of the things, I'll give you a perfect example, Peter. And I don't know if you've been on any radio or TV shows interviewed, but in 2009, when President Obama wanted to have a social group run the census, I was called on a Sunday afternoon by a booking producer for Good Morning America, who said, "Oh, we need you to go on tomorrow afternoon with Diane Sawyer." She was still on Good Morning America at the time. And I said, "Sure, what's the topic?" He said, I forgot the name of the group, it doesn't matter, but they were taking over the census. And I said, "What do you want to know about it?" He said, "Well, we need your opinion on it." I said, "All right, send me the topic." So he emails me half a dozen questions and the answers. So I called him back. I says, "What's with the answers?" He said, "Well, that's how we want you to present it." I says, "You want me to spin it? It's what you're telling me is unconstitutional. I said, Section 2 of the Constitution says the Commerce Department is supposed to handle a census. No one else. It's been like that for 200 years. He's, well, that's how we want you to present it. I says, no, I'm not presenting it. I won't go on air and I won't be your whipping boy. I says, hire a girl in a short skirt with a blonde wig and sit her in front of a teleprompter and have her do it. Then he said to me, he says, but you're going to be on with Diane Sawyer. I said, what's the difference? I could be on with the Pope. I'm not going to lie. I says, you want me on as an opinionated? That's my opinion. And it's not only my opinion, it happens to be fact. So, that was the way it was. I go on Fox or MSNBC or any of the other cable shows. I get a call and they say, did you hear the president's speech last night? Yeah. Did you know we mentioned Reagan 42 times in the debate? I said, yeah, I heard that. And he says, well, Neil wants to talk to you about it. I says, okay, fine. That's it. I go on, he throws a question at me, I throw an answer at him, we go back and forth for 2 or 3 minutes, and that's the end of it. They don't feed me any questions, they don't feed me any answers. It's all mine. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be the news telling their people. When I'm not touting Fox, Peter. I'm not patting them on the back or anything else. But I do know, because I've been there, I've been on over 350 radio and TV shows. I do know the way they work. And when I go on there as an opinionator, they have somebody on the other side who's debating me. When I watch CBS or NBC or ABC or even CNN, they'll put 2 left-wing liberals on talking together. They don't give you the opposite, the other side. And that's what bothers me. I'm not angry. I'm just frustrated with what's going on in this country. We're being gaslighted by the media. And that's what's happening. Do you know David Ignatius? I had dinner with David about 5 years ago. He was my guest and I'm on a board of directors at the time of the World Affairs Council. And David was my speaker and my guest, and we had dinner together. And I presented some of these facts to him, and he said to me, "Yeah, I guess you're right in a sense." But he said to me, the media's got to learn to behave. I says, "Okay, we'll let it go at that." So I don't know, Peter. I don't know what we're going to do with it. Maybe we should just have robots do the news. Put a teleprompter in front of them and have them read with artificial intelligence. That'll be the easiest way.
Yeah, Peter. Needless to say, what Michael is speaking about has a lot of relevance, but I want to know, you work with so many people. You actually, I guess you wrote about them, and one of them was George Soros. I'd like to know what you think about George Soros and his involvement in, really paying a lot of money to the Democrats. Are you willing to talk a little bit about it?
Of course, I'm willing to talk about it. George Soros is a remarkable person. George Soros and his family survived the Holocaust. He went to London, didn't have a nickel, managed over time to become someone who could make and ultimately give away billions of dollars from his financial instincts. He's become one of the major philanthropists in history. He is himself a person who believes in what is known as open societies, values, democracy, social justice. The notion that he is somehow a mastermind of left-wing politics, I can tell you from my most deep understanding, is nonsense. First of all, right at the moment, George is 90, he's 91, 92. This is not the time in his life when he sits at a great big organ and tells the world, hitting the keys. It's just ridiculous. Most of his interests over time in American politics have, surprisingly, not really been at the congressional and national level. He believes that an awful lot depends on what happens on the state level. He supports Democrats, I would say, probably by an overwhelming majority, but he doesn't just support Democrats, he supports Republicans. I happen to believe that George has done more to support open society in the countries like Russia, Hungary, Poland, South Africa, than any other person in our time. So do I need to defend George? Absolutely not. George is very, very capable of defending himself. And look, he's old, he's very rich. So people attack him. What are they going to do to him? In our society, people are not going to do anything to him at this stage. And the fact that he got to 92, when at the age of 14, he could easily have been murdered, is quite an extraordinary achievement.
Peter, let's talk also about Donald Trump, because again, he's another person who you, I guess you spoke to or you interviewed.
No, wait a minute. I didn't just speak to him. I was the person who edited the book, part of the deal. Over a period of 5 years, I interacted with Donald Trump over and over and over again. And the truth of the matter is, I came to know him and understand it. And unlike other people who have their opinions about Donald, I actually know him. And what I see in Donald Trump is the person I saw back in the 80s. Then he was a New York developer. He's extraordinarily, in ways that people don't understand, focused, disciplined. Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink. His commute was from one floor in his building to the other. And he just had a capacity to always be able to get the things done that he wanted done, no matter what the odds were. So bankruptcies, marriages, scandals, none of it ever took him down because he was so confident that he could get through it. Now, when I knew him, he was a developer. He was a New York celebrity. And when he became president, you saw exactly the same characteristics. Still lived over the store, still didn't smoke, still didn't drink. And he benefited enormously from the fact that so many people underestimated him. They thought, well, Trump, he's just kind of a buffoon. Or, what can he really do? Fact is, the single biggest political mistake in modern American history was underestimating Trump's appeal to a very significant portion of the American population. He did, after all, at the end of his first term, get 75 million votes. This is a person who knows how to speak to his constituency. And this is a person who believes and has succeeded so far in getting through every jam and coming out unscathed. Well, maybe not, but certainly able to go on doing what he wants to do and getting other people around him to do it for him. It's an amazing American story. The idea, do you regret having, that's a nonsense question. I was a reporter, a journalist, actually an editor and a publisher. I didn't make any money from him. My publishing company, Random House, was the one that paid him. And he was thrilled, by the way, thrilled to have us do the book. And the book was a huge, huge success. And one of the reasons Donald Trump is president of the United States all these years later is because of that book, followed by the television, Apprentice. So it's a great story. And my personal views of Trump are that his influence on American life, particularly in the last few years, has been profound and fundamentally negative. But I don't underestimate him.
Right. Peter, one of the things that I hear from the public is the hatred for him. The hatred is just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, if I talk to somebody and I say, what do you think of President Trump? The answer that I always get is he's a piece of what. And I don't understand if someone like you who absolutely, well, I'm not going to say that you're all, I'm a Democrat, but on the other hand,
you don't have a clue what I am.
Well, you want to talk about it at all?
No.
Okay, so let me hear why you think people hate him so much.
Well, I think there are a variety of reasons. He's a deeply polarizing figure. His approach to politics and life which he learned from his mentor, Roy Cohn, the New York lawyer and fixer, is, when you need to, you push hard and push harder and push harder. Trump he's incapable of the kind of personal insight that would allow him to know when something is done wrong. He'll blame somebody else. He's also, in his own way, extraordinarily shrewd. Those nicknames he gives people, he thinks them up. He doesn't have a gag writer. Trump knows how to work a crowd. And I once saw him at the Atlantic City Arena in the late 80s, before the television, when he was there as a promoter of professional boxing, and 18,000 professional boxing fans, when Donald Trump came into the Atlantic City Arena, cheered. That was a very long time ago. He can still arouse enthusiasm, not still. He very much continues to arouse enthusiasm from the kinds of people who, for one reason or another, find his approach to the life and politics and language and so on irresistible. And it's, he's a phenomenon. There's no question about it. Whether he's a positive element in American society, my view is no. But obviously there are a lot of people who feel that he is.
Yeah. Michael,
Yes.
One of the things that we're dealing with right now is a situation with Putin, and also the Chinese person who is really maybe more of a threat than actually Putin is. Tell us a little bit and explain to our audience what is going on and whether or not we're going to be in a situation that is really going to be harmful.
Well, here's the problem. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think Joe Biden has a clue. I think his strings are being pulled like a puppet, and he's presenting things out there that are absolutely ridiculous. He talks about, if Putin attacks the Ukraine and we're going to put sanctions on him and they're going to be tough. Wait a minute. I wouldn't wait. Why were we waiting? Why don't we just tell them, hey, this is what's going to happen? But here's the problem. Here is how that is going to hurt the United States. Because number one, Putin is now supplying about 80% of the gas and oil to the European nations, all members of NATO. As soon as NATO gets away and backs the Ukraine, Putin's going to shut the pipeline. Biden last week has made a statement that if he does that we're going to supply Europe with oil. We don't have enough of our own. He shut the pipelines down. We can't even get it out of here. It's amazing. So that's the first thing. If Putin takes the Ukraine and we do nothing and we lay down a red line, just like we did with Iran 12 years ago, and nothing is done, China is going to say, we're going to go in and take Taiwan. And when they take Taiwan, Iran's going to laugh and say, now we're going to build the bomb. They probably already have it, but that's besides the point. So this is going to be a domino effect right out of Russia, and Putin knows it. Putin is whether Putin attacks Iran, the Ukraine or not, putting 100,000 troops on the border is enough of a threat for us to start sanctions. Why are we waiting? It's called preventive medicine. It's very simple. So I just don't want to see it happen. There are too many people who are hurt. Germany doesn't want it. They're backing Russia because what did they do? They sent the Ukraine military helmets. What the hell did they send them helmets for? How about sending them some arms, sending them some tanks and jeeps? No, they're sending them helmets. Give me a break. They don't want Russia to cut their pipeline. Their pipeline was endorsed by Biden's administration. He set it up. And I have to be honest with you. I got to ask you a question, Peter. I don't know if you realize it, but I don't know who's running this country, because I don't know if all these ideas are coming out of Joe Biden's mouth or somebody else is behind him, because he doesn't take questions. He's answered, except for the last news conference. Prior to that, he had 9 news conferences and answered 7 questions. That's amazing. Trump would answer 7 questions before he got up for breakfast in the morning. I'm not patting him on the back. I didn't like his rhetoric, but I liked what he did for this country. And I don't think if Trump was president today, Putin would be putting troops at the border. That's only my opinion. But in your opinion, do you think that Biden is actually running this, or he's got a group behind him that's doing this? I mean, I look at it and I think there's a group that said, stay in your basement, don't worry about it. We'll make you president, and then we'll talk. I don't know. I have no idea. So I don't know where it's coming from. But when he got up and he said, "Oh, I can't answer that question because they won't let me," I scratched my head and I said, "Who is they?" So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. It's only time will tell. So, what's your opinion, Peter?
Well, I mean, Michael, it's clear from having listened to you for the last 35 minutes that we're just come from different places. So
nothing wrong with that.
But I'm not going to try and persuade you of stuff. I am not going to try and persuade you of things you clearly believe deeply. I don't agree with you about Biden. I think this is a guy who's been in public life for 50 years, has shown over and over again that when life knocks you down, you can get back up. He won the election by 7 million votes. He is a very experienced politician. What we are witnessing now is the way in which our country has become so polarized that it is impossible, virtually impossible, to get people to agree on things that are essential, like infrastructure, finally went through, childcare. I mean, there are so many ways in which our society needs help, which we're not getting. In addition to which, we're in our beginning of the third year of a pandemic, which has killed 800,000 Americans. You can say, well, Biden hasn't gotten rid of it. Trump sure as hell didn't get rid of it. We live in a society right now which is deeply troubled. And I don't personally believe that the right way out is by deciding to just vilify Joe Biden, who happens to be the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Who I can tell you his best will in the world is to leave this place better than he found it.
Well, that is something that Peter feels, Michael. So I'm going to give you the last word. What's your thoughts about what Peter just said?
Well, Peter and I maybe have different thoughts and different feelings and different beliefs about different things, and I respect him for his beliefs and his words, and I don't have a problem with that. I'd love to sit down and have dinner with you some night and spend about an hour chatting about it. But I look at it from a different point. I look at it when I get former secretaries of defense and secretaries of state who said that in 47 years as a senator, he's gotten every foreign policy wrong, and then I have to see what happened in Afghanistan, and I got to scratch my head, and I said, why didn't he talk to the military? Why did he just pull everybody out? I mean, the last thing you do is you take the military out. You don't take them out first and leave the American citizens sitting behind. We have close to 1,500 Americans still in Afghanistan, and the government is not taking them out. Private groups are trying to get them out, and it's scary. We went into Afghanistan to defeat the Taliban, and when we left, we gave it back to them. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm a common sense person, and I speak from common sense. So I just don't know. I think his foreign policy is backwards, and in looking at his history in foreign policy, it's scary. It really is scary. I don't know. And what he's doing at the border is really even scarier. Sneaking people out in the middle of the night.
Peter, I just gave Michael the last word. How about you?
You can have it. It's okay, Susan.
Okay. All right. Peter, what's your last word? Because you have wonderful opinions and ideas, and you have a tremendous amount of experience. So I'm very anxious to hear what your last word is.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm almost 80 years old, 78. Seen a lot, experienced a lot, learned a lot. Don't despair, because I have a belief that society somehow continues to evolve And we're going to look back on this time. I'm going to say, yes, it was very difficult. It was a very, very, very dark time in this country. But it's not the end by any means. We'll come out of it. I think in some ways we'll be stronger.
Well, my guests today have been Michael Solomon and Peter Osnos, both of whom are very interesting people. And I would like to know if somebody wants to get in touch with you, or they want to get your book, or they want to, speak to you. How do they do that, Michael? And you're next, Peter. I want you to tell the audience how to get in touch with you. So, Michael.
Yeah, they can go to my website, Susan, michaelsolomonbooks.com or successtalkinc.com. And all my books are out there. My latest book, Mental Acuity, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Shaping Your Mind for Greater Success, will be out in about 2 weeks. And my last novel, which came out 4 months ago, is doing pretty well. It was already written for the screen by Hollywood, so we'll see what happens there. And that's basically it. Other than that, you can follow me on Facebook, and that's pretty much it.
And how about you, Peter? How do they get in touch with you to learn a little bit more about you?
Probably the best way would be to go to the website that exists for the publishing company, and most recently, Platform Books LLC.com. And it's info@platformbooksllc.com. And those messages all get to me.
Well, thank you very much, both Michael Solomon and Peter Osnos, for being on the Susan Brender Show. It's been an interesting one, and I hope to have you back again and to talk a little bit about some of the things that the American audience would really appreciate. So thank you again, both of you.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Susan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.